Hello everyone and welcome to another video. I'm Wibbert and this is one of my builds. In this episode I'm gonna continue where we left off last time, which is right around here. Last time I built this diagonal little bit of a neighborhood, and this time I'm gonna, because if you look at this neighborhood, there's a lot of empty space around. And well, I kind of hinted last time that I was gonna spend some time trying to make this look less like a bunch of gaps. So that's kind of what I aim to do this episode. At first I undid some of the stuff that I did last episode, where I made some small buildings historical. I undid that because I decided that I wanted the wall-to-wall buildings to develop, and I am gonna get a bunch of those to develop. Yeah, but not everything is gonna turn into wall-to-wall buildings yet. As you can see here, there's some new development going on already. The reason why not everything is gonna develop into the new wall-to-wall that I'm looking for is because they are only showing up in the European tile set, and I think, well, I'm not sure about this reason, but I believe that I have this, the way the game picks the architectural style is, I believe, still set up in the default way, which means that it changes every year to the next one. So right now there's a lot of these showing up, the wall-to-wall buildings. By wall-to-wall I mean the buildings that tend to not have gaps in between them when they develop. So you can see here there's a bunch of buildings in a row around this little rectangle that, well, sometimes I do leave a gap, but I guess there's some alleyways and stuff in these kinds of neighborhoods. But in general, they are meant to fit together snugly, and yeah, I think they tend to make nicer looking facades that look a bit more urban, I think. So yeah, that's kind of the look that I was going for, so I did demolish some of the buildings that don't really fit in that look. I believe that the architecture style, because I haven't checked it in between recording the video and doing this voiceover, but I believe the architecture style was set at random, or by default. It's not really random, but it goes from the, yeah, it just changes every year into the next one. So I guess I was lucky when I started building this that I was in the right year. I'm not sure if that's the case, but I believe that's the case, because at the start of this episode, as you could see, a lot of them did develop, but we're getting close to the start of year 102 of Bobstown, and I think once the next year starts, we just don't get any more of these wall-to-wall buildings. So what I'll do in between this episode and the next is just set it to European, because the wall-to-wall buildings are made in a way that they only grow in the European tile set, so you'd have to change the setting there if you really want those to show up. And I think I knew that at some point, but I just forgot in between that point and when I was recording this. But it didn't really matter too much. I wasn't aiming at having this be completely finished in this episode. I just wanted to add a bunch of decoration to these backyards and to make some interesting shapes. So what I'm using here are these diagonal fence pieces and some orthogonal fence pieces. They are made by the same guy who made these wall-to-wall buildings. And there's a bunch more diagonal wall-to-wall stuff, but as far as I know, this is the only set that is actually growable. And I just have a preference or a soft spot for growable things, because I don't want to spend, well, I'm a bit hypocritical, but in general I like when buildings grow. I don't mind spending a bunch of time on things like this. What I'm doing here is micro building a park, but I don't like to spend a lot of time on like micromanaging which building goes where and stuff like that. So I don't know, it's just a weird preference because of the way I used to play this game when I was a kid. I just let everything grow the way it did, and yeah, I don't know. In some ways I do think that using your skills and the tools that you have to have some more control over what type of building comes where is makes for a nicer look. So that's why I chose to in some way try to make sure that everything goes into these wall-to-wall buildings. It's a pretty varied set, and I don't know, I think it makes for a pretty nice look, especially with those pavement parts that they don't come with the set if I'm not mistaken, but they are made by the same creator and they're meant to be used with the set, so you can I guess you just can round off the backyards a bit better and stuff, make it all look a bit better. But there's more diagonal filler kind of things. But so in preparation for this episode, I've been looking and trying out a bunch of diagonal filler stuff. And there's some pretty nice sets. I chose to use this because they aren't finicky about how flat the terrain needs to be, and some other diagonal filler sets needed it to be absolutely flat, unless if it wasn't absolutely flat it would glitch out with the terrain. And another one that I tried had a bunch of trees and stuff, and when I think about it now, I guess that would have been fine, because I'm gonna be putting down a whole bunch of trees anyways, but when I tested it, it just didn't look as good. And I also had another idea of using some of the Marust. It's the Jenks Paris embankment set, and I thought that it gave a pretty nice result, but it wasn't super flexible. I think maybe it was more flexible than I thought, but it also needed the terrain to be absolutely flat, and I didn't want to spend too much time flattening all this terrain in this episode. And I think these the pavement pieces that I'm using with the black fences, I think they look pretty nice, and they do what they need to do. So I started by just going around the shape and just making the outside of the shape first, and then I was just experimenting a little bit on how I would want to fill in the middle here. So in this little area I chose to create some extra paths in the middle where, I don't know, people could meet or hang out or whatever. I'm not really sure if there's like a real life example of this, but I think there would be. Yeah, there's definitely some stuff that's similar in my memory, but it would be maybe a bit smaller, and I guess there would be more playground kind of props in it, while this one doesn't have any kind of playground stuff. So yeah, there's not really a good reason why I didn't put down playground stuff, apart from not having installed any Mayor mode ploppable playground stuff. So yeah, I didn't think of installing those before I started building this. And I tend to not stop a recording and install things. So if I'm gonna make some playgrounds, I'll do that in another episode. For now, I think I've been talking a bit too fast. So here, I'm just using the different plants. I think most of these plants are made by the same guy, Giraffe, on SimCity 4 Devotion. You can, in the LEX, which is the lot exchange, you can, if you're logged in, you can do like a advanced search or something. It's one of the buttons in the top, and then under author you can just select Giraffe and look at all the things that he's uploaded. It's not all plants, but at least the plants that he uploaded were all of very high quality. Though I did have an issue with the seasonal flowers. The seasonal flowers were missing a winter setting. I did fix that myself, and I'm gonna leave a comment for him to also fix it for everybody else. But they were missing they were missing the setting for the winter season, so they were turning invisible in the winter, for me at least. Maybe that's just something that was wrong at my end, but I think it was a mistake in the mod, and I fixed that by changing, or by copying the summer to the winter one. So because I had the option to either copy the autumn or fall one, or the summer one, and the fall one didn't have flowers, and I kind of like the flowers, so I chose to copy the fall one to the winter one. But maybe it would be more realistic to just use the fall one for the winter one and the summer one for the summer and the fall. I hope I'm not being too confusing here, but there's, instead of 4 seasons, there's only 3 seasons in SimCity for seasonal flora, and yeah, for each season, if you make a seasonal flower or tree or whatever, you have to set, well, first of all, you'd have to make the 3D model and the texture model for the plant or tree that you're making 3 times, once for each season, or you could just do 2 and use one for 2 seasons, and then you'd have to set up the exemplar file, which is a file that points towards the textures and the 3D models that the game needs to use for the plant, and then you have to set up so the I don't know how to easily explain it, but I would call it an address. So you'd have to set up the address or the identity code for a texture. For instance, you have one for each season. That would mean you'd have 3 textures, and three 3D models. So you'd need to link or point towards each of those in the exemplar file. And yeah, that's where it went wrong. It wasn't pointing towards anything in the winter setting, so that made it go invisible in the winter. And I fixed that by just copying the summer one to the winter, but I think maybe that's a bit weird. Maybe I should have done the autumn one to the winter, but whatever. At least it works better than it used to. And I hope the author will fix it. I think he will soon enough. Last time, a couple of months ago, I had a problem with the walnut trees that he made, that they were also missing the winter thing. It was basically the same problem, but then for the walnut trees, and he had fixed it in like 2 days or whatever, so I think he's still pretty active, and he's very talented in terms of making beautiful plants. I think he just makes a mistake every now and again, but we all do, so no big deal. So for this second area, I chose to use the pack ponds and streams to make a bit of a water area, because I thought that would look nice, and I wanted to use the bridge. As you can see here, there's a bridge there, and I basically forced myself to find a way to use the bridge. So on one side of this area, I chose to remove some of those pavement fillers, and I think it fits alright. The water side on the top right of the screen here might look a bit weird, but I'm gonna fill it up with some plants later, and I think it will look alright. And if I hadn't done that, then I would have to make 2 very small kinda ponds, and I just wanted to make one that was a big pond and one that had a little bit of an island in the middle. So basically it's just a bunch of stream pieces that look like a pond because they go in a circle. And yeah, I'm just using these pieces. For some reason, while building this, I had a lot of problems with this diagonal piece and estimating which direction it was gonna go. For some reason, I just couldn't get a good feeling for it. I think it might have something to do with me being a bit dyslexic and having trouble figuring those things out, but it was also maybe because I was recording, and yeah, I don't know. For some reason I just well, there I also did with the orthogonal piece, but that was pretty easy to estimate because the arrow was always pointing away from the fence, and for some reason the diagonal one, I just couldn't get in my mind how it was gonna turn up. I think if I had thought about it a bit more, I could have made like a rule in my mind for how it was gonna show up in relation to the arrow, but I didn't really take the time to do that because I didn't really care enough, I guess. I was fine with just derping around a little bit every now and again. So here I started doing some plants, and as you can see, I am able to put plants on these pack ponds and pack streams, and that's because of a free water mod, I believe it's called, but I'm not sure. I think it's Bank's free water mod, which changes the streams and ponds to allow you to put these Mayor mode ploppable items on them. So as you can see here, I can even place rocks on them and all kinds of stuff, but it's a bit limited because yeah, I guess there's still a a prop part or something to these puzzle pieces where it doesn't allow you to put plants down, and I don't know if it's the edges or whatever it is, but for some reason it's only on some parts where it easily lets you put down these plants and stuff. And here I'm just using a couple of different water plants to make it all look a bit less empty and to give it a bit of a vibrant look to it. And just make some splotches of plants here and there. As you can see here as well, the pavement pieces with the fences that I'm using have a different grass texture to them. I'm gonna, because I think it looks a bit weird if you look at it like this. I could have maybe found some filler pieces that had the same grass texture and just use those, but I'm just gonna use some plants to hide that and to to just blend that in. So I started with doing the water plants first, and now I'm gonna go into the trees, I believe. I did the water plants first because if you place the trees first, then it's just harder to see what you're doing with the water plants. And here, I don't know, I think I should have bulldozed and redone those maple trees, because I believe the right one is sticking through the house on the right over there, but it's whatever. Doesn't really matter too much, and from this angle I think it looks kind of nice. And I'm just using different trees to I'm using different trees because they have different colors, but also the different leaf shapes or whatever helps create a more organic look of the area. And I don't know what an area like this would look like in real life. Maybe it would be more flowers, but I'm planting a lot of flowers now, by the way. They don't look like flowers, but they're seasonal flowers. And these are the flowers that I fixed, that I talked about earlier. So you don't see the flowers now, but in the winter and in the summer time you should see some flowers popping up here, which I think you'll be able to see later in the video. I haven't really paid too much attention to that while recording or preparing this voiceover, so I'm not sure. We'll have to see. Yeah, the shadows look a bit weird, or I don't know what's going on with that pond. It looks a bit weird, but let's not stare at it and let's just let it be, I guess. I'm quoting Beatles songs now. So yeah, this is looking a bit better than I had imagined, to be honest. And as you can see now, there's some flowers in the top one and now in the bottom one as well. I don't know why they didn't show up at the same time. I'm not sure how the seasonal stuff exactly works because I didn't make the game, but I guess it's fine. Yeah, and here I'm just using some fillers because I wanted to use the 1x1 bits of residential, because those can develop into the wall-to-wall stuff, while the 2x1s tend to not for some reason. But yeah, just like that I just made a couple of nice little backyard gardens. I'm gonna do a lot more of that stuff, but here I'm just looking at these pavements and there's those triangles, because I placed those filler bits down and they act like parks, and parks for some reason make the game put grass next to the diagonals, which makes those little triangles. And I thought maybe if I put some more medium density residential, because the low density residential also makes it have grass next to the diagonals, and the medium, well, the low wealth, not low wealth, but low density makes the grass, and the medium and high makes it fill with pavement. So I'm gonna be well, first of all, I'm gonna make these things historical, and I'm making these historical so they don't end up changing later. And I like these wall-to-walls here as well, so I chose to just go around for a little bit. And yeah, early on in this episode I sped that up, but speeding that up and keeping the music from derping out was it was a bit tricky. And well, it was just the first time that I was doing an edit like that, so it took me a bit longer than I thought it was gonna take me, and it involved a little bit more tweaking and stuff, so I chose to just not do that for this bit. I'm gonna end up doing that at the end, I believe, where I do some cinematic shots of this build, but for this part I just decided to keep it in. And here I thought I could do a little bit of a wider sidewalk over there, maybe that looks cool, and then just make a transition using one of those straight pieces. And then I was thinking something similar over here maybe. I'm just trying to make some random shapes, and well, not too random, but I'm just looking for ways to make different shapes with these path pieces, and just puzzling them together until I find something that I think looks kind of cool. So here I'm just yeah, I just went around and made those two areas with a little bit of extra pavement, and now I'm thinking how I'm gonna fill this, and it looks like I decided to make a little bit of a pond here as well. And the pond that you can see me build here with the little island in the middle, I kind of thought of this shape when I was experimenting in preparation of this, and I thought that it's a little bit of a heart-shaped pond. It's Valentine's Day this week, I guess, I don't really know. I thought maybe that's nice for some people. It looks like a bit of a heart, and that was really just a side effect. I just really like the shape of that island in the middle. It looks super random. Not super random, it looks somewhat random. And where I used to live, in the town where I used to live, a friend of mine used to live right next to, well, his backyard was facing directly onto water that also had a bit of an island in the middle of it, so kind of reminded me, the idea reminded me of his place and where he used to live, and I thought, yeah, that's kind of interesting to recreate in the game. I don't know, maybe it's not interesting. I think it looks kind of cool though. Yeah, here I'm derping around with the diagonals again, so I'm thinking, yeah, something like that. Then just rotate it twice over there. And this part is, because there's no pavement piece with fence on both sides, so that bit was impossible. Yeah, I had to change something about the stuff that I'd already built. So here I'm just thinking, oh, yeah, derped again. I don't know what the rule of thumb would be. So here I chose to use a filler, and for the other bit I thought, wait, I can just use a Petmol with the decorative elements to just, I don't know. Wasn't really sure what I was looking for here. So here I have something with flowers, and I thought, I don't know, the flowers are just a bit too blurry for me compared to the other plants that I'm using. Yeah, but the benches looked kinda cool. Or, well, cool. I don't know. Yeah, I think they look normal enough. There would be a bench in a spot like that, I guess. I'm not sure if there would be benches in every direction, because if you're living there and there's like a bench facing your house from like 3 meters or 10 feet away from your back door, that would be a bit weird and creepy maybe. But I don't know. Let's not think about things too much. It's in a game like this, you don't have to have everything that you build be super realistic, as long as it just doesn't stand out too much, I think. And if you zoom out, if you look at the cinematic shot at the end of the episode, I think this general area looks, yeah, I think it works out. I think it just ends up working out pretty nicely. But there might be things that you think you do better or different, and I would like to encourage you to try because it's pretty fun to build something like this. You just start putting stuff down, and halfway along the way you end up thinking, wait, what if I tried this or that? And for instance here, I thought, wait, let's see if I can use some medium-sized rocks. And I just tested them out to see how aggressive they were when you click. And they were pretty aggressive, so I was very careful and just added some small rocks next to them. And this made a little bit of a rocky area over there. Yeah, I don't know if that's realistic or not, but it's what I did. And yeah, it's very fun to just start building something like this and at some point just have no idea how it's really gonna end up, and in the end be surprised by what you built yourself. And here, yeah, this is gonna happen a couple of times in the episode, where I put one tree down and then I put another tree down, and it ends up hiding like 90% of the other tree. And here I was trying to add another tree there, but it was glitching a little bit with the other tree. But now it looks like a bunch of bushes maybe that are on the ground. I don't know what it looks like. But if you don't pay too much attention to it, then you won't notice when you look at this view. And maybe if I rotate it, it gets unglitched, because sometimes that happens when you rotate the camera. But I don't know, I didn't really test it. And in the other ones I separated, because I have 2 flowers that I fixed in preparation for this episode. One of them is the daisies and the other one is the spiraxis. And the daisies are pink flowers and the spiraxis are the multicolored flowers. And I only fixed the seasonal ones. The other ones were working fine as always, but the seasonal ones were missing the winter texture, or they weren't missing the texture. It was just that the exemplar wasn't pointing to any texture for the winter setting. So I fixed those, and in this part I'm just mixing them in between each other. And in the earlier ones I kind of separated them and alternated them, so like one bit of garden would have the one and the other bit would have the other. And I'm gonna keep doing stuff like that in the next couple of parts that I build as well. Well, next I'm gonna be building them a little bit later, because I'm gonna be doing some canal stuff in between. Not really. So yeah, I think this looks nice. I'm not really gonna be building a bunch of canal, but the thing is, well, first I'm gonna be doing these. Yeah, so this is pretty much. Yeah, it's not really what I hoped I was gonna build because I had no idea what it was gonna look like, but yeah, I thought it would look a bit more derpy with the limited pieces that I had for those pavement things, but the diagonals ended up working together pretty well, so I think it looks kinda cool, especially with the ponds there. Yeah, I think it worked out pretty well. And yeah, when I build stuff like this, I tend to remember a lesson that I used to have when I was in college, where I was in architecture class, and well, it wasn't really a lesson or something, but it was something I learned, and we were doing personal projects for that class where we had just small assignments that we had a week to complete, and then we had to show our designs and discuss what the ideas behind it were and stuff like that. And the professor at one point said something about when you look at shapes and you combine shapes, at some point the combination of shapes starts to create new shapes in between the shapes. And I'm not sure if that's something that's obvious to people, or maybe I didn't explain it well, but the idea is that, for instance, you have 3 squares or whatever. If you arrange them in certain ways, then you could make a triangle, or you could make maybe a T-shape if you had some more squares. Yeah, so the combination of shapes can create new shapes in between the shapes, and I think, yeah, it's just that aspect. You can't really see it when you look at the ponds, but I started with creating a bunch of shapes by making those pavement, by putting the pavement pieces down, and then you yeah, I'm talking about it when you can't really see it, but you'll see later on in the episode. The planters are gonna end up having interesting shapes. It's not purely by chance, because I did have that in the back of my mind, and I did think about it a bit, but it was partially just something that happened by combining shapes and trying to make sense of the paths. And over here I put some of the ryegrass a bit too close to the road, so I decided to redo this little area. This is the green ryegrass, and I'm trying to blend in those green triangles. And those 2 squares that I bulldozed and started redoing, I'm gonna end up redoing it once or twice more. I think once more after this, but I'm not sure. I think it's once more, because I'm gonna end up doing some stuff with the old looking commercial buildings that are along the diagonal road there, and that's gonna change the pavement, and then I thought maybe I can use fillers there, but you'll see. So here I'm looking at these diagonals. I made them all historical in the last episode because I thought they looked kinda, I don't know, they don't look especially cool or whatever, but I thought the fact that they all grew together like that was enough reason for me to make them historical. And it doesn't really make sense, to be honest, because they're not diagonal and they're along a diagonal road, but I don't really have diagonal commercial buildings anyways. Or maybe I do, but I don't remember. But I thought, yeah, it looks kinda iconic to have that like that. And here I started by just doing the the diagonal bits, and then I thought might be cool to have some pavement go all the way to the side of the canal. Maybe use some petals here to give some decorations to that area, but the petals needed to be absolutely flat, so I thought let's flatten that. And here I sped up this bit where I fixed the canal because it took me a bunch longer. And there's a corner in the top right here that's also derped out. That was already derped out, and I just didn't catch it last episode. So I guess it's for the best that I caught that this time. And yeah. It doesn't really matter too much, the small glitches that I'm fixing here. But yeah, I don't know. It just looked weird to me, so I decided to spend some time on it. And I had in the back of my mind that I could just speed up the footage. But speeding up the footage also meant that I had to disconnect the audio from the video unless I was gonna be playing the sped up music, which I didn't want to do. So that's why you might hear some clink and chunk noises that aren't connected, but I think the audio of the game audio is gonna be quiet enough for it not to be too noticeable. And here I thought, let's put some petal pieces with decorations. I think that looked alright. And yeah, I'm just gonna be looking at this for a bit. Oh yeah, I was noticing that the pavement was it was green next to the road, and I wanted it to be pavement, so I chose to put some medium density down, and maybe I should have made them all medium density, I don't know. But then I saw over there, well, I chose to look at the bottom first to maybe see if I could round that off a bit better, because now the fence just ends in nowhere, or in the middle of nowhere. Doesn't really round off to anything. And here I have this diagonal, and I wasn't sure which direction it had, so I had to do that. Yeah, that's right, that's the right direction. But there's two squares next to this bend. I don't know if they are just glitched out for some reason, but I can't place anything on them. And I think I noticed that last episode, because I do remember trying to dezone some unbuildable areas and then just being like, whatever. So yeah, I don't know what's going on with those. But yeah, I couldn't place the pavement fillers there, so I thought maybe if I do it over there. And as you can see, the pavement fillers are designated as parks, so they glitch well, they change the texture next to the road back to green. And on that one piece I managed to use a little bit of a zoning trick to change it to pavement, but on the other one I couldn't, so I decided to just bulldoze the two diagonal bits that I placed. And yeah, I decided that those little bits over there were just gonna be grass, and I used low density. And so if you hold down low density residential, for instance, and you hold down control and you drag the zoning you start next to the road, and then you drag the zoning onto the road so that it has a shape that can't really be plopped, because control forces it to be one lot, and the lot can't extend onto the road, so it won't create a zoning, but for some reason it still assigns the pavement designation of low density to the road next to it. So that's how I got those to be green. And that is something that is not absolutely permanent, so it gets overridden by any other change to the zoning designation. I think wealth also has to do with the pavement type, so if I hadn't made those commercial buildings historical and they would redevelop into a higher wealth type or whatever, they would also make it change, I believe, but I'm not sure. I could have just zoned low density commercial there, make a small shop or whatever, but I don't know, I didn't do that. Here I'm waiting for September on the calendar in the bottom left, because the seasonal plants and trees are calibrated to be planted in September. I think that's just something, I don't know, it's something people agreed on at some point, I guess, because there's different modders that all use the same September baseline for their mods, so I guess at some point people made agreements, or they just agreed to make seasonal plants start in September, or to make them synchronized if you plant them in September. And I'm not sure if you have to plant them actually on the 1st of September, because some mods do say that, I believe, and I never really do that, because I don't really care if they're desynchronized by 1 month or whatever. I think it actually might look more realistic if they're not all super synchronized, so they don't all just change at once, but then you'd have to spend a bunch more time planting them down, and in these videos I feel that would be a waste of time if I were to go over every area 3 times. For instance, starting with a layer in August, then doing one in September, and then doing one in October, just to make the plants stagger their change with the seasons, which, I don't know. You can have different philosophies for how you want your region or your cities to be best viewed, and I guess I'm just focusing on something that is best viewed by screenshots and not by video, maybe. I don't know. I'm making these videos, so maybe I should be focusing on video. I don't know. I think the videos are for the build process behind the screenshots, but I'm not really posting a lot of screenshots these days, so I don't know. Let me know if you want to see some more screenshots on the Reddit or whatever. I can do some more screenshots, I just haven't taken the time. Yeah, so I'm keeping that area open this time, which is, I believe, the last time I touched that little area. That's the area that I replanted 3 times, I believe, now. And I thought, maybe an open area is a nice little variation to all the pretty densely treed, forested areas. I don't know. Yeah. And here I thought, let's look at this little area. I think the building on the corner looks pretty nice. I don't think I make it historical. well, I think it fits in nicely enough that I probably should have made it historical. And here, yeah, I'm trying to be creative with these things, and being creative is, yeah, it just has to come to you. So, yeah, I don't know. I just start doing random things and then look for solutions to the problems that I'm creating by doing random things. And here I thought, wait, that I could make a little bit of a triangular backyard over there, something like that. And I thought, yeah, that looks kind of cool. And I was thinking about putting another diagonal there, and I think I'll put another diagonal there if those two houses develop into the wall-to-wall kind of stuff. But for now I thought it would look weird. And here I planted some trees. And the maple trees, yeah, if you click them one too many times, but yeah, the fourth time they went back to one tree, but they are a bit explosive. They take about 4 tiles in their largest form, which is weird. I think, well, it's, yeah, I'm not sure if I like it too much. If it was a brush or something, then it would make sense, but since it's a single plop, I guess it would make more sense if you didn't get 3 trees when you're trying to plant one down. It just makes it a bit unyieldy when you're putting stuff down, but maybe I'm just being a bit complainy right now. I don't know if complainy is even a word, but a bit whiny maybe. It's not really a big deal, to be honest. And here I'm using some water plants on a part that isn't water, but who cares? They don't really look too much like water plants, that they look weird there. I think they just look like a bunch of rugged bushes. These feather grass, I think they're more like June plants. I think making something themed around the shoreline and dunes and stuff like that would be kind of interesting at some point. But it's not gonna happen this region because this is more of a river themed, river / lake themed region, which I'm not sure I've ever seen dunes next to a lake. I think they manage the water a bit different. So that little area, it looks a lot better now with these plants, with the colors. Yep. And here I thought, why are all these houses not developing? Because the fact that it was the architectural style, well, it's not really fact yet, I still have to test it, but that idea, it only came to me afterwards. So here I'm still thinking, what is going on here? Maybe it's land value related or whatever. And I thought, yeah, let's just give these people some education and stuff, because they're missing pretty much everything. So I started with a fire station, and I was noticing I have 3 mountain theme pack fire stations that I haven't tried yet. Well, I've tried one of them, I believe, but not this one. So I thought, let's see, and it has a pretty big radius, which might be a bit cheaty. I don't know how much of an impact it has on fire stuff, but I think the whole fire stuff is a bit stupid in general. The mini game of you having to launch to appoint a firefighter to a building that is on fire. I mean, I don't believe that's realistic at all. I think a firefighter would go to the fire regardless of the mayor being involved or not. So, yeah, I don't know. As a kid it was annoying, and it's still annoying whenever you're just trying to speed up the game and there's a random fire happening for pretty much no reason. Well, maybe there's a reason, I don't know. I don't know how exactly the fire chance stuff is being calculated. I do know that if you... I might be mixing City Skylines and SimCity, because in City Skylines I believe if you put enough like fire stations near each other, at some point you're just gonna get no fire hazard. I'm not sure if that's also the case in this game, but yeah, I don't think it's ever really worth it to invest too much into firefighting, because fires don't really get out of control in this city or whatever. If it was like a medieval city builder, where well, then it wouldn't make sense to have a fire station, because they didn't really have those in those times. But then there would be a bit more of a risk of an entire city burning down. But well, maybe that can happen if you just don't take control of the fire. But a lot of the times it just solves itself. It just stops burning, I believe. But I think in SimCity 2000 fires were a lot more dangerous to your cities. But I haven't played that game in like 15 years, 20 years, I don't know. I'm feeling old right now. But yeah, as a kid, I think fires were pretty manageable in SimCity 2. The riots were pretty annoying, and I do remember the floods were just the scariest thing. Because, yeah, I live in the Netherlands, and floods always have been something we're not really scared of, but yeah, we grow up with the knowledge that like in the 50s we've had one of the worst floods, well, not in the world, I guess. I don't know. I don't know the exact numbers and whatever, because it was elementary school when I learned about the flood in the 50s, but it was a pretty horrific flood. So yeah, the floods in SimCity 2000 left a bit of a mark on me. Yeah. So here I'm gonna be developing the next 3 areas, and I'm gonna do these a lot faster. So and they're also gonna be a bunch different. So yeah. Oh, I thought I cut out that I saved the music, I guess. Whatever. So I'm gonna be building these areas. And in reviewing the recording, I did notice that I forgot to make these areas medium density, so I think I'll do that in between episodes. But for now, yeah, the pavement is gonna look a bit weird along the road. And here I thought maybe I could make some other interesting shapes with these diagonal puzzle pieces. You could make a square, but then you'd have no access to it. And I thought maybe a big square, but it didn't fit very well, so I thought maybe a square of green stuff, like that. And maybe 2 squares would be interesting, so I bulldozed this one, and I remade it a bit closer to one side, and then started another one a bit closer to the other side. And that creates a little bit of a path in between them. So this is kind of like what I talked about earlier, but then the reverse. This time I made shapes by looking at the empty areas instead of the paved areas, and the shape of the pavement was like a result of the shapes that I wanted to make with the green areas or the grassy areas. I don't know if I'm being clear when I'm talking about these things, but I hope the concept is at least a little bit clear. I don't know. It's yeah, I'm just gonna stop talking about it. If it's not clear by now, then I'm pretty sure I'm not gonna be able to explain it well, so I'm just gonna leave it at that. So yeah, I'm still having so much trouble with estimating what direction these diagonals are facing. I think I could blame the creator of the mod for not making a more clear indicator of the diagonal, but I don't know. I think it would be a bit of work to make such an indicator, and I think it already was a bunch of work to make this mod, and I think it allows for enough creativity that I think we should just be, well, I will just be grateful to the modder for creating these sets at all, and I'll just try to wrap my brain around it. And here, so this time I'm just making the pavement make sense to some degree, and it ends up making this little boomerang shape. Yeah, see, I still derped out. Oh, it's so tricky for me, I don't know. But I made this, yeah, there's like 4 shapes there, and those shapes, they kind of remind me of one of those puzzles we used to have, a bit like, it was like a square with some sort of magnetic metal, and well, yeah, I think it was iron or whatever magnets stick to, and then you had like different pieces of magnets, and one was like a trapezoid, and you had like 2 large triangles and a couple of tiny triangles and stuff. And the idea of the puzzle was that you take them, all the pieces out, and just shuffle them and figure out how to put them back in again. So you'd have to like piece them together in a specific way. I don't know if you've had such a puzzle, but I don't know. Those little garden pieces over there reminded me of that puzzle, and I thought it would be, I don't know, nice to talk about if maybe someone else has had such a puzzle as well. So the school here is sticking into this garden a little bit, and I thought, I was looking over here, where are those other ponds that I made, because I was thinking about making a pond here, and yeah, if I make a pond here, then it's just alternating pond, no pond, pond, no pond, and I thought that would be alright, because that means everybody has like an equal access to a pond, or yeah, as close to equal as it could get. You just have to cross one street to get to a pond area, if you like to watch the duckies in the pond. And because this area is a bunch smaller, at first I was looking at the pond pieces, but I thought you could just make a little 2x3 shape with them, but you could of course do a transition into a stream and then make the same shape that I'm gonna end up building with these. But with these pieces, I guess I make a little bit of an island in the middle again. I don't know. I could have made 2 small islands as well by using a crossing and a T over there, but I didn't. I don't know. I think it looks kind of okay here. I just didn't want to do a 2x3 because that ponds tend to not be very well. They tend to look a bit random, in my experience. And doing a 2x3 just looked too much not random. Yeah, I don't know what the opposite of a random is, I guess, structured. Yeah, so at this point I was going into the next area, the next little neighborhood square or rectangle, because I was kind of just waiting for the clock to go to September again, so I could start planting the plants. But I didn't want to just stare at the city while waiting for that, so I thought, let's just build something while the time is running slowly. Let's see how close we get, so I don't have to speed up for too long. So I decided to just start building the next areas before. And here I was just looking at this empty area and I thought, wait, there's maybe a bit of a plus there. And then I thought, yeah, let's do a square here. I don't know how to better explain it. And I was just trying to make some squares here. But of course, this one, it dirked me out definitely one too many times, and yeah, okay, I got it. Yeah, I'm not really showing off my brilliance in this episode, I guess, when it comes to rotating these things. So I was thinking of it just being a couple of squares, but it ended up being like it's not really an octagon. Well, I guess it's an octagon, because I don't believe octagons... Well, if an octagon needs to have 8 sizes of the same length, then it's not an octagon, but it's pretty close to an octagon. And it created a bit of a pattern, because it went from square to octagon and then to square and then to like 1/3 of an octagon or a bit less than that. So I thought that looked kind of cool. And here I'm just waiting for the right month of the year. And I hope I don't forget to pause at the right moment. And here we go. We're in September, so it's time to plant seasonal trees and stuff. And here I just went pretty nuts with the maple trees. I thought, yeah, that looks alright. And here I went very careful, and it still put 2 down where I thought I was gonna put 1 down. Yeah, that's just the trees being a bit random, I guess. To some degree, it's very nice to have random trees, so you don't have to micromanage every tree that you plop down and keep clicking them and stuff in order to get some different tree shapes around the city. But yeah, I had some pretty big areas there, so I was pretty safe with putting them down. But even I don't know, when it puts down 2 where you just click once, it's a bit weird. I don't know. I'm not gonna complain, they look nice. They're clipping through each other a bit, but just don't look at it too much. Yeah. A little tree over there, a little tree over there. I think in general, just don't take the game too serious, alright? Just take it as serious as you want to, of course, but when you're watching me build things, just accept that some things are gonna be a bit weird. Or don't. Whatever. So here I'm just filling out these, and I alternated the flower types on those, and I'm gonna do that over here too. And on this one I'm just putting the flowers on the outside, and I'm gonna fill in the inside. So there's these 2 evergreen kind of trees that were left over from the map. They just weren't ever bulldozed, so they were just there. And they have a bit of a bigger footprint, so it's a bit harder to put the plants around them. I don't know. I think I might have just used a pretty... It's not really a bad tree mod, but it's also not a very good one, because the trees have such big footprints. So, I don't know, I'm not 100% satisfied. And here I accidentally put a non-seasonal tree and I thought, whatever. I'm just adding some smaller plants here to give a bit more of a variation in texture and color, because it was all just a bit green. Well, it's like a whole bunch of different greens there, but whatever. Here I'm adding some feather grass, or trying to. The feather grass has a bit of a large footprint. Some of them are showing up here, but it's definitely a large footprint, so it's also a large plant, so it makes sense. But it's a bit trickier to put it down, so maybe if you want to use those, you should start with them. And here I thought maybe I'll use some cypresses on this little island, and I guess they have a large footprint as well, so I thought maybe I'll use some cattails. And yeah, they also wouldn't show up, but they did show up on the edge, and I guess they made more sense in the water anyways. I'm not a cattail expert, but I think they're semi-water plants. They don't have to grow in the water, but they tend to grow better near the water, but maybe they have to grow in the water, I don't know. Maybe there's different types of cattails, I don't know. And to be honest, I don't really need to know, because the ones that aren't in the water, if cattails need to be in the water, then they're not cattails, then they're just some other plant that looks like cattails, some sort of reed or whatever. There's billions of types of plants, or well, billions. I don't know how many types of plants there are, but I'm sure there's more than I can imagine. So I'm willing to accept that I don't know. And yeah, just like that, I'm gonna show the build for a little bit. I think it turned out a lot better than I could have hoped for. There's still some areas that need some work, for instance the edges of this, and here I'm just showing the roads flipping out at 6 times speed, because I thought it looked kinda cool. And I kinda wanted to do a nice night shot, so here you can see the lights come on at these houses as people start to watch TV or go to bed, and they go off again. I want to thank you all for watching, and I'd like to see you again. Goodbye!